The Cetra's story is a memory. It's a tale about the next few years and Journey's End. Part 3, the climactic conclusion to the remake Rebirth anthology, as well as 3 decades of Final Fantasy VII. It's a warning about the emotional anguish that we all will helplessly be going through, each and every one of us. Nobody is coming away unscathed from Journey's End, no matter their initial beliefs going in. A sadness that has not words will be met by every imagination adventurer. None shall sit comfortably in the cosmic audience thereafter, forevermore, not because of catharsis, though that manner of holistic cheer and consuming tear shall find unprecedented summit as well. No, it shall be because of choice. Decisions where there is no right answer, only perspective and consequences that you cannot predict. Choices made without knowing who to trust, what's real, or how to navigate the very unfair reality of mortal existence coupled with godlike power, the reality at the end of Rebirth. Even the aperture into fundamental truth that was a guiding light in 1997. Acceptance of what is won't be known in the moment. Nobody will know what truly needs to be accepted. Death and life are 2 sides of the same everything. In 97, we had to accept death. In 2027, we will likely have to accept both. Journey's End can have a finale that isn't bleak and haunting and dystopian where everybody's dead. But even in this, the path getting there is harrowing without the slightest reprieve for pleasant softness, as choices made now can mean someone else who's innocent will need to sacrifice themselves to save you for the wrongs you unknowingly unleashed. A Cetra story was opening of a door into terrifying light and dark and the freedom that binds the 2 together. Fortunately, this event has both a personal and universal happiness at its conclusion, but this wholeness and victory is marred by terrible premonition. It gave physical form to a second one-winged angel, he who carries a burden greater than any and tied only with Sephiroth, the avatar of creation himself, Cloud. The 1-year anniversary event begins with the mortal or personal perspective. A noble, beneficent, and selfless dragon named Orta, an aspect of Bahamut, is being waylaid by a far superior foe, Alba, the destructive aspect of Bahamut. This Alba both seems to be a clearly defined, objective embodiment of evil. He's a bad guy, as well as something that is hauntingly familiar. Alba was shorn from the noble Orta, born of hatred, anger, and jealousy. This being destroys as a function of its purpose and believes its own perspective so wholly that it defines cosmic truth by this perspective. It destroys righteously, just as Orta has thus far ensured the thriving continuance of mortals, seeming as a function of its purpose, righteously. And the 2 aspects of Bahamut are fighting over the same life, same consciousness, for dominance, possibly for survival. As we would find out, there can only be one. As one rises in power and hegemony, the other falls. As all of Ever Crisis begins with Sephiroth in the Nibelheim reactor, the location in space, in time, in memory, where one aspect of him, Ore, dies, and the other aspect, Watashi, was born. Alba and Orta's diametric struggle for survival strikes very close to home and is ominously portentous. A Cetra's story is called Birth of the Destroyer. However, this perspective about Alba being a bad guy is not a fundamental or multiversal truth, a truth that transcends perspective. As next, a Cetra story explores an alternate perspective, Alba's. From this being's words, it seems that the two dragons, Alba and Orta, Alpha and Omega, are two parts of the same consciousness and are not separate by any means under normal and natural circumstances. Who else does that sound like? What's true, what's real continues to be blurred and challenged as the apparent separation witnessed, which gave birth to this destroyer, was not due to malevolence and evil, but it was out of necessity, a response to the selfish machinations of a mortal with godlike power, Shakia, the full-blooded Cetra, who seems to be a priestess even amongst her people. She who used Orta to fulfill her seeming good and wholesome intentions of not meeting violence with violence and intellectualization of her sentimental need to serve her people and their ways. It was she, Shakia, who forbade Orta, Bahamut, from fulfilling half of its nature by suppressing hatred and pain. Alba was severed from the host and given physical form. Further, according to Alba, if this embodiment of pure destruction had not arisen, Shakia's actions would have wrought untold destruction across not just one world, but the whole planet itself. The embodiment of destruction, according to Alba, was born to bring and ensure balance in the life stream. Pausing for a moment, can this child of anger and jealousy be trusted? Does it speak fundamental truth, that which is beyond perspective? And even if it does, is it the whole truth, which would require that Alba is omniscient, at least on this issue? Like Sephiroth, it could easily be telling a truth, yet still be utterly manipulative and self-serving. It could also be telling the whole truth from a limited perspective, if it is not omniscient, or representing omniscience. Could Alba, or even Minerva, explain how the credits, something that should be beyond the scope and reach of anything Final Fantasy? How were the credits broken? In a Cetra story, we, the cosmic audience, are afforded a priceless luxury, likely not available at Journey's End. It quickly comes to seem that Alba is telling a holistic, fundamental truth, one that would avail itself to serve mortal life. Alas, though Shakia quickly reckons to this version of universal perspective, the point of no return had already been crossed. Though the heroes fight the vengeful Alba, Bahamut, it is too late. Great death is about to unfold across beloveds for the mistakes of the past, to which the reconciliation of the present is not enough. A wise, selfless, and extremely aware being sacrifices itself in an attempt to right the wrongs, to save a mortal that it loves more than itself, answering the question, what would you do to save someone you love? A great being sacrifices itself as the last available opportunity for beloveds to continue, while for the first time in this 1-year anniversary event, Aerith's music plays, a chilling foreshadow. The sacrifice to Aerith's music does have its intended outcome. Another luxury that might not be available at Journey's End, as Shakia is able to not only find cosmic forgiveness, even from this destroyer, but then she becomes a harbinger of this truth, this cosmic love, for others to benefit from, so others might not make the same mistake she did, or suffer needlessly in the face of destruction due to not understanding that destruction and creation are part of the same whole. However, Journey's End will conclude. This story, a Cetra story, at the very least, has a happy thereafter. Alba and Orta reunite, and the sacrificed, great, wise, loving being arises once more. The mortal with godlike power is now more aligned to the will of the planet, to serve her instead of threatening her. And in the finale, all those lost and those who yet live, Biggs, Wedge, Jesse, and Glenn, and young Sephiroth, and Zack, and Shakia, and the heroes of Final Fantasy VII, all take a cosmic bow before we, the cosmic audience. Imagination adventurers, I bid thee adieu.